I encourage everyone to take a moment and breathe and take a tea cheers with a Jiri tea. A Jiri tea recognizes the beauty in shared stories and shared opportunities. Ajiri sources award-winning tea from Kenya, employs women in the region to handcraft the labels, and sends 100% of the profits back to the region to support orphan education. Save 10% on your order of Kenyan teas and coffee with the code BeautifullyHuman at ajiritea.com. AJIRIT.com. Tea mugs up. Hello, and welcome to the Beautifully Human podcast. I'm Nick Sheesby. In this podcast, I speak with beautiful humans from all around the world, sharing with you their incredible stories, revealing the power in every human story, to spread love and humanity to a world that is in desperate need of it, to show that we can all connect in beautiful ways no matter where we come from or what we look like. What you will find out is that we are all beautifully human. Let's all be beautifully human. So how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm doing good. The day has been off to a productive but not like crazy start. So I'm enjoying myself.
That's always nice. It's always good to start the day off productively. I went for a nice walk. That was my productivity for the morning.
Nice. Yeah, remind me of like where you live around?
I live in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay. Beautiful place.
Yeah. What about you?
I live in Southwest Florida,
Okay.
in Fort Myers area.
Nice. My parents actually have a place in Venice, so not too far from there.
Yeah, not too far at all. We love going there, going to the beach there.
Yeah, I think they fly into Fort Myers quite often.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, cool. I appreciate you reaching out and chatting with me.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you for bringing me on the show. I'm super excited to be here and just have a good conversation and make it feel like we've known each other for a while.
Yes. I loved your fun facts. That was not that I was like anybody that messaged me and not belittling or making it any different, but anybody that messaged me, I was like, yeah, I love to chat. Like I want to talk to everybody, but yours definitely made me laugh. So hatred of math. Why do you hate math so much?
Oh my gosh, probably so many reasons. But like, I just have never really, it's not been something that's ever really come easy to me.
Sure.
I think that there's an actual word for this, and it was around the time I got tested for like ADD and stuff in school, and it's basically like dyslexia with numbers.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, your kid might have this, and so I was like, oh, cool. There's a reason why I am really bad at math. But I tried to get away from that verbiage and be like, okay, Haley, if I wanted to be really good at math, I could be.
Yeah.
But now I don't really have to be,
Yeah.
unless it's with, some basic social media numbers and
Right.
some basic finance knowledge.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I need to know with money.
Yeah, it is funny when you're a kid and you're learning all this shit and you're like, why do I need to know this? I'll never use it again. And then pretty much I've been right in that where I'm like, I don't need to know this. Like I do merchandise for bands. Like, so I need to know like very quick addition, subtraction, division. I need to know that. And then basic accounting. And I'm good and I can handle massive accounts doing that. But I'm like any of this other stuff, I never understood why I needed to know it. So I actually loved math and I have a mathematical brain, but like I can see why people get very anxious about it because my brother actually had the dyslexia with numbers. And so like he's an amazing chef, but his worst time in school for when he was learning was his baking class because it involved math. He could make anything. He makes amazing food, but then it came to baking and it's very specific and it was very tough for him.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Yeah, math is definitely one of those things where when people can do it in their head real quickly or we're having a conversation and, they come up with those easy math numbers. I'm like, damn, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? It's just
Yeah.
simple subtraction. But yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And one that I thought was that I was surprised by, I'll tell you that, is the MMA one. I didn't No, and
Mm,
I don't like to be judgmental, but I just didn't. I wouldn't imagine if I saw you that you'd be into MMA. Do you do
yeah,
MMA or you just enjoy it?
I both. So I
Oh,
love
okay,
MMA as a spectator sport, but I also love actually doing it. Right now it's different with COVID and everything. So
sure,
when I go to the gym, it's just going to the gym. But I do try to incorporate now that, we're not literally grabbing each other and being all close in proximity. I just do it by myself, like some kickboxing and boxing. But as I was a kid, from around the age of maybe like 6 and up, karate, kickboxing, boxing, jujitsu, Muay Thai, like all of that stuff. I was like, yes. My dad and I really bonded over that, and that was a love that we had together. And so, because he loved it, and as his little girl, he was like, "Cool, yeah, I'll teach you self defense and bring you to all
totally.
these cool classes." And I loved it, and it was a way for us to hang out together. And so, I think that's probably part of the reason why I still enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, and I love that
Hmm.
I presented that of myself as like I wouldn't. You never know when you look at somebody what they're into, what they've done their whole life. Like it goes to not to steer it too far the other way, but it's like when you look at someone you don't know how healthy they are. Like you could look at me and think this guy's really healthy, but I have a really terrible liver because I drank myself into a terrible liver problem. So you just never know. And I love that you have that beautiful story with your father when you were growing up and learning, and especially just knowing self-defense is such a valuable knowledge to have.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right about not always knowing what somebody else is like, obviously, just based off appearance. And it's so true. And I totally get that a lot of the times where people are like, whoa, you do MMA? I wouldn't have expected it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's just based off of what circumstances we grow up in,
Yeah,
and what strikes our fancy. And so many times, our external, the way that we like to present ourselves, is not always reflective of what we love internally as well.
right.
So, yes, love, MMA and sports and all of these things, but externally, I'm just pretty calm,
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
chill, like very zen,
Right.
friendly. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that though. But it is nice, like, I was speaking with a friend of mine the other night. He was driving through and we sat out back by the fire and, kept our space and whatever. And he was talking about how he just loved it because it was just such a like gift to give of wrestling and like getting that aggression out and like being able to know how to do these moves and like take care of yourself if something comes up, but
Mhm.
also it's just like teaching you that like even keel, just like zen almost with it.
Mhm.
And he told me a really cool story of he his I forget, it was his nephew or something. He was 11 years old and he was getting picked on, and so he was like, hey, come outside. And he was like, don't take this shit anymore. Come with me. And he's been practicing at a gym. And so those two, because they'd been in a bubble and whatever, like they've been practicing. And this kid has taken to it
Mhm.
incredibly well and just loves it. And now, if anyone picks on him, he at least can take care of himself, and not worry about
Yeah.
some big dude coming up and just kicking his ass.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting the way that those types of sports, you're literally leveraging the body or the weight of somebody else, and the mechanics of it, which, funny enough, involve math, but the mechanics of it are so fascinating, and like the way that we're able to do that by and the way that different cultures do jujitsu too is really interesting.
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
don't know a whole plethora about it, but our professor, when I was last doing jujitsu, he was a huge fan of the different styles, and he was like phenomenal, like 4-time black belt, like insane. Um, and when he would describe the different techniques that fighters would use in jujitsu and why they were different from different cultures, it was just so unique to hear that background story.
Yeah, I think that would be super cool to learn. I mean, I just love learning about cultures in general. Like I think my favorite part about traveling, not only seeing the beauty of everything, but just that culture, just seeing life through a different focus, a different place. So I think that would be incredible to learn on top of all the other skills it brings you.
Hmm. Yeah, immersing yourself in the culture is really what brings, in my opinion, that fulfillment, like that satisfaction of actually traveling to that place. And I haven't traveled tremendously in my lifetime, but the few places that I have traveled to, it one of the most, if not the most important thing to remember when I travel is like, Haley, immerse yourself in actual culture of the place that you're going to. Wherever it is, even if it's like North Dakota, figure out what happened here in North
Yeah, yeah,
Dakota.
yeah.
What are
Totally.
people here like?
Totally. So on that note, what I usually do ask that kind of a question in this podcast is where's your favorite place that you have been so far?
My favorite place that I've been so far was probably the Philippines. We went to the Philippines in January of 2019, so not too long ago. And it was absolutely beautiful. And culture was probably the number one thing that was so fun about it. The people there were so friendly, so happy, so willing to give and be open and share and just hang out. And they were just so excited all the time. And that was one thing that is really easy to take away from that experience of the Philippines of like, yo, doesn't matter what situation you're living in, you can always choose to see the positive outcomes and things. You can always choose to be a little bit brighter, so to speak. And beside the culture, oh my gosh, the scenery, the landscapes, the water, the animals, everything was absolutely incredible. And my partner and I were like, you know what? We could probably live there for a period of our lives. It was that amazing.
Oh, that's so cool. I would
Mm-hmm.
love to go to the Philippines. I actually work with a nonprofit that my friend has spinal atrophy, and he and his friends decided to make a backpack where they can actually carry him in the backpack. So they've gone backpacking all across Europe. They went to the Great Wall of China. It's this unreal story. And funny enough that you said Philippines this morning. Um, they messaged me last night, and I've been trying to tell the people stories who have these packs and how it's changing their lives, because that's such an amazing, unbelievable, beautiful story to tell. And five of them, they have five backpacks in the Philippines. So I was emailing some people from the Philippines last night. So it's funny that that circled around this morning.
Yeah, that's so wild. That is cool.
I love it. It's that small world shit that comes around that I'm just like, all right, I'm supposed to be talking to some people in the Philippines. For some
Yeah.
reason, they came up and the Philippines came up. That's so cool.
Mhm.
All right. So I love this part too, because I love chatting with people. I love chatting with people that I know. I love chatting with people that I've just met over the internet and now chatting with you via FaceTime. So tell me about your life. Tell me about growing up. What was your growing up like?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, where do I even begin? I loved my childhood. It was full of ups and downs and twists and turns, but overall, I had a really fun childhood. My parents are awesome. They're super supportive. They let me try a lot of different things. That was probably the number one thing that I remember as a kid is testing and tasting different things and then moving on to the next. And some parents and would be like, you know what? No, you got to stick with one thing. And I think that's valuable in its own regard. Um, but also being able to taste the rainbow and just experiment with life, like experiment with the things that brought me joy. And so, as a very young age, I've always been really creative. I love music and art and videography and photography and all of the visual aspects and um, I guess audible aspects too if it's music. But that was a huge part of my childhood. And as I got older, so I grew up in Southern California and then moved to Spokane, Washington. And it was because my grandma moved to Spokane, Washington. So once grandma moved, my entire family moved. So not only me, but my cousins and my aunts and uncles and everybody pretty much part of the family moved up there. And during that period of my life, about a year or two into that move, I had gone diagnosed with a autoimmune disease called aplastic anemia. And it's basically a disease where your good cells are attacking each other.
Oof.
And during that experience, I was, in and out of the hospital for a period of years. I had to be homeschooled because going to a regular school, it was almost like the world was a giant coronavirus. Like I was in quarantine, but I was the only one. So at
Sure.
school, too many germs. Grocery store, too many germs. Going to the grocery store and getting vegetables and fruits, like everything had to have a thick peel or a thick skin. Like couldn't have any deli products, like all of this stuff. And so my life dramatically changed, and so did my parents. And because there were so many hospital bills, we went through a dip. Like my parents had to file for bankruptcy, and we were put in a very new position in life.
Right.
And through that whole experience, because I was, about 8 to 10 years old during that time, I had a lot of time to just sit and do whatever. And I was always a very introspective kid, but I got very interested in like human behavior, why other people did what they did. So I enjoyed people watching in the hospital. And then, as I would come home and I would just do my little arts and crafts. But then when we go out, I'd love to people watch. And so after I had been in the hospital for a few years, I was thankfully put into remission. So I'm all healthy now. And that was about, gosh, what date was that? I think I was about 13, 14 years old at that
Awesome.
point.
I love that.
Yes. It was,
Fantastic.
yeah, it was a long time in the moment, but quick in the grand scheme of things.
Sure.
And when I was integrating back into school, I was like, all right, Haley, make some friends, figure yourself out, follow your passions. And music was always that constant. So went through high school, decided that playing with bands and on stage wasn't necessarily my thing. I tried it. I had a great time. But I'm very introverted. And so that was not only scary, but it took a lot of energy from me. So I fell in love with the production side of things. And so got into audio engineering and mixing and mastering and all that jazz. And as I got through high school, with my first job, I saved up all my money and bought a microphone and a cajon drum and a guitar and all of the cool things that I needed to do. And then at the very end of high school, I found a recording studio that ran an education program. And it was in Seattle, Washington, and they were responsible for Nirvana and the Foo Fighters and Soundgarden and Heart and so many incredible artists. And so after I graduated there, they actually hired me on. And I was like, oh, hell yes, my dreams, it's coming true. And so through that experience, I met incredible musicians, so many talented artists. And I also met my mentor. So she was involved in the music industry. Her name's Laura Lavi. And she was a music lawyer. She had her own entertainment company. And she was the perfect person to introduce me to this world of business and entrepreneurship. And she was the one who helped me understand more about what that was and how to actually go about monetizing my own skills and creativity. And when I was working at the recording studio, all I kept thinking was, God, all of these talented people have an important message to get out to the world, but they're not making a dime off their music. And yes, maybe a couple thousand or a few hundred are listening and paying attention and supporting, but it's not enough to carry them through and to get this out to more people. And so for me, I was like, oh, if you could just do X or if you could just do Y, you'd get there. And that's what sparked what I do now. So it was a snowball into the journey of entrepreneurship. And what I actually started out doing was social media management for bands. And I would post, their videos and pictures for them, but it wasn't enough for me. I was just missing one important aspect, and it was really that idea portion, the thinking up something in my brain and then seeing it come to life.
Yeah.
And so that I pivoted, and right when I pivoted was when COVID really slammed down its hammer and made the whole world pause for a bit. So when that happened, I was like, oh man, I just pivoted. I just lost almost all my clients, and now I have to start something new. Which was what I do now, which is that coaching portion of it. So now I help mission-driven professionals, usually solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business owners who have that drive in them to help the world, generations down the line, to help them get their message out there to the right eyes, to the right ears, at the right time in the right place. And my favorite way to do that is through content creation, because I believe that content is just another form of communication. And whether it's through stories that are written or told or heard, I think those are the best ways to really resonate with people. And that is how I wound up here today. That was a long-winded answer.
No, but it's beautiful. I love learning every aspect because like you said, I mean, I love how you looked at it. You know, you had this unbelievably hard between 8 and 13, which is such a tough age for something like that to happen. I mean, never is it a good time for anything like that to come up, of course. But how you looked at it of like, man, in it was 5 years and it was really tough for that 5 years. But in the grand scheme, 5 years in your life is a pretty small part of it. So I think that's such a beautiful outlook, and the fact that you went through all of that, and then like I know so many people are you know so sick of this lockdown and COVID and all of it, and it's like in the scheme of life, it's gonna you're gonna look back on it and it has flown by. I mean, it's 2021 already. For goodness sake, you know, it's like it has flown by already. So I love the outlook that you took with that of an impossible situation and just made it like, okay, I'm going to start learning people. I'm going to get introspective with this. I'm going to learn from it, because it'd be so easy to not do that as a kid, you know, to just give up almost, you know. So I think that speaks a lot to who you are, that you just took it introspectively and you learned from your situation.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely was not easy, but it was interesting because I think it was part of just having a kid mentality, which is why I'm so grateful to have that experience happen to me at a young age. Because almost, I genuinely can't think of a time back, when I was sick, where I thought, oh, like this sucks. Like this, well, okay, let me back up. Yes, it did suck. I definitely had those thoughts. Like, yeah, this sucks. But never did I think, I'm never going to get out of this. This is going to be my life forever. It was the exact opposite. I always had the thought of, I'm going to get through this. This isn't going to last forever. There's something better on the other side. And as long as I'm taking it day by day, as long as I'm surviving the day, then awesome. So be it. It was very much living in the moment and realizing like I'm still breathing. I can still move. I can still speak and smell and see people and talk to the ones that I love. And I think that at its core, I didn't think about it when I was 8 years old like that, but at
Right.
its core, that's what it was going on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that that is something that every single person takes for granted, no matter if you actively do or not. Of just the literal act of waking up and then breathing throughout the day is the ultimate gift. Literally, the ultimate gift is like waking up and breathing and being able to communicate, being able to walk, doing this, like holding this piece, like doing that. Like so many people don't have that, and like my perspective changed on that massively with like 20 almost 29 months ago now. I was in the hospital with liver failure from my drinking, and I was told at 33 years of age that they didn't think I had another night left or another day left in this world. And so it was like, well, fuck, man. Like I have, I was looking at it and I was like, okay, well, I've done a lot. And, like I wasn't thinking of possessions or anything like that. It was just like, I just want to live. And so I fell back in love with life, and I fell in love with those connections, and like you said, creating content and telling stories and just sharing life, and like just truly falling in love with like day by day of life, of living, of interacting, and just relearning how to do that. And I think that's really beautiful that you learned that as well, and that you're lending that knowledge to people with your work now, because it's such an important, with work. I think so many people get tied up into, I have to work, I have to work, I have to work, and then life just kind of goes into that. So it's beautiful that you have that perspective to share with them of like, let's do this, but like, you're giving them those skills to do it all.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and what you said earlier too about like your experience from having gone through like liver failure and learning it takes sometimes a really shitty moment to realize how beautiful life is.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but life smacks you in the face when it needs to say, hey,
Yeah.
look at what you really got. You look at how grateful you should be, and look at what you get to do every day, not what you have to or need to or should do.
Yeah, it is. It's a massive perspective change. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you run yourself through a brick wall and then you stand up and then, yeah, it's not like, oh, I have to do this today. It's like, I get to do this today. I get to have this conversation with you. That's awesome. I get to sit here and chat with you and learn about your life and be enriched by you. That's a gift. That's so cool. And then we get to put this thing out and let the ripples go and see who it touches. I think that's such a beautiful thing, and that's why I wanted to start doing this. I work in the music industry. I have for 15 years. So, like you said, you lost all your clients this year. I lost a ton of work this year just because of COVID. And I was looking at it and I was like, okay, so I started this as a blog. And then I was just sending questions and letting people answer them. And I really loved it. I was crying in every single one. I was laughing. I was learning all this about my friends. And then I was like, well, shit, man, I could sit and have these conversations with people and just put them out and, like do my little part in the world to send these ripples out of breaking down the stigma of I don't know what this person looks like. I don't know who this person is. I don't know where they grew up. But you know what? I bet we have a lot in common, even if it's just that we breathe and we live life, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. It's so true. And what a perfect name for the podcast, too, right? Like, beautifully human. It's so awesome to just connect with another human being. And, like, I mean, it just goes back to why we were born. Like, everything was made for something else. The air and the grass and the trees and animals and all of it was made for something else. And I think oftentimes that we forget that we as humans were also made for something else. And it's to not only live this awesome life, but it's to uplift and inspire and grow with and contribute to that growth of humanity and society and the world as a whole. And so when we get to have these conversations, I personally am a type of person who believes that every conversation happens for a reason and things happen for us, not necessarily to us.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's just been, especially this year, just seeing the divide of humanity and how humans are getting politicized, and you can't be a person on this side without being this or whatever it may be. And it's really hard for me to watch as a person that just really loves people. And I just every time I travel, and I've been very fortunate to travel quite a bit, I started asking people within the last 4 years, when I would be in a place. Like, I lived in Denmark for like 2 months in 2019, and a friend of mine that I was living with, his aunt and uncle came and had lunch with us, and it was this lovely couple. They were so kind. They were just so jovial and fun and laughing all the time. Spoke incredible English, which most of the world does. And I asked them, I said, would you want to come to this country? And they were actually terrified because of what they see and what the perception is, because they felt like they wouldn't be accepted because they spoke funny or they had a different accent and they didn't speak English well enough. And I'm sitting there going, it's unbelievable that you have to have this fear to come to a country that majority of people speak only one language, and you are coming in with maybe your second language, probably your third, whatever. You speak
Mm-hmm.
more than one language, and then you still have to worry about what people think about you. And it just like it started this whole mission. Like, when I was meeting these people, it was just like, I want to be able to meet these people. I love doing it, and it enriches my life so much when I meet these people. And I'm like, I want to talk to these people. I want to tell their story and let people know, if they want to listen, that we're humans. Like, we've never spoken a word to each other, and we're having a beautiful conversation. It's that simple. It's just sit down with somebody and just connect and talk and be open, have emotions, have feelings, and share those with people.
Yeah, just more compassion, more empathy in the world, and just being open and willing to have that conversation or have any interaction and any sort of conversation where there's no judgment involved. You're just two humans hanging out, talking about whatever. And it really does not matter at the end of the day what, their views are or opinions are politically. And, we all have strong opinions on stuff.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, if you're wanting to be good to other people and you want to receive that back, like, you're a fine human, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I think just especially here, the political landscape has really stolen that from people. Even if you just get demonized on either side. Like, I know where I stand and what I believe, but I also believe that, like, even if you're on the opposite side of where I'm at, you can still be a good person. I do believe that, because political ideals are just one small portion of what you subscribe to. It doesn't fully, well, I mean, it takes over some people's lives, but like, it typically is just what box you check on a ballot, and it's just sad that it's divided so many people recently.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does suck that it creates more division. And, not to stir up stuff or like bring up a can of worms, but I don't think that it was an accident that there was so much division created, that has been created over years and years and years and years. And I think part of my mission on this earth is to create more of that compassion and create more of that empathy and create more of an awareness of, hey, we are literally all just human beings, so let's be kind to each other. Let's subscribe to the same thing. At the end of the day, just making sure that people are safe and people are happy.
Yes, 100%. Because I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I know that in my life, I generally want to be happy. I want to be healthy. I want to live a life that has meaning to it. Whatever that meaning, whatever I draw that meaning to be, I want that. And I feel that that's a pretty common across the board feeling. So any of this other shit that comes in is like, that's created. We're all out here doing what we do. Like, look at how many paths of life there are in the world. Like, there's the guys who created a empire on picking up trash, that they're billionaires from that, like, to the person who's picking up the trash that is helping that along the way. It's like, it doesn't matter what we do in life. That's just what fills our time. It's what we put out to the world is the beauty and the guts of life. And for me, especially because I almost lost my life, I was like, I'm just going to put out all the positivity and the love that I possibly can. That's what I'm going to do. And if anybody wants to jump on board, rad. If not, I'm doing what I can.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you said it's not what we do in life, because you're so right. It's not really what we do or what our labels are or whatever. It's who we are, like how we carry ourselves, and how, at the end of the day, who we become.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, some of the people that, like, I always go back to, I just think people should travel a lot more and go see the world, get a whole new perspective on life, and then put it back into your life and just be thankful for what you do have. Of course, people have what they have, and, some people have a really bad deal with everything, but, like, travel the world and see, and then meet those people in the places like the Philippines, like you said, so happy, so loving. And I've just met so many incredible people that have so little, and they're just so happy. And it just shows in life. It's not what you have either. It's that life. It's the beauty that you put out. It's the laughter. It's the love. It's the compassion and the joys that you share with humans around you, if you know them or don't, or you look like them or you don't, or don't know a damn thing about them. Like, I would much rather just throw my peace signs up and not hug everyone right now, but in a normal time I would.
Yeah.
So on that note, I also like to ask this: if no restrictions were in place, and obviously right now is not that case, but if I had a plane ticket and I handed it to you and I said, Haley, you can go anywhere in the world with this plane ticket, where would you be? Where would you be headed to?
Mm. Oh my God. It's hard to pick one because I have so many places that I would love to go.
Well, then because in my perfect world, I get to be Oprah in this scenario, I get to say, okay, so you don't have one. I get to say like, all right, where are you going first? Where are you going second? Like you can we
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all make believe. It's where you want to go.
Thank you. The permission of Oprah has been granted. Uh, I love that. I would probably go to, I've been really wanting to go to the Dominican Republic, so maybe there first. Then maybe Egypt.
Ooh yeah.
Then maybe like Madagascar. Then maybe also been wanting to go to like the Swiss Alps,
Ooh yeah.
maybe Finland. Those would be like my top. Well, how many was that? Five. Those would
Yeah.
probably be my top like five.
Those are fantastic. I love
Hmm.
I love the difference in all of those as well.
Yes, yeah. Trying to go to different places, experience wide variety of cultures.
Yeah, it was really cool it seems so funny that it was in January of 2020. My partner and I, we were in northern Finland, like in the northernmost village in Finland. So it was in the Arctic Circle, and it was so magical up there. It was hard because it was like 21 hours of nighttime basically.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was like, but it was so cool to see again the humans up there and the people that we met. They were just so kind, and like it's cool when you get to see that where it's such a far, in your mind, like you hear the Arctic Circle and it's like, what is that place, and to see that there's a fully functioning, fully capable, fully just as in depth as Nashville, Tennessee, as Fort Myers, that's happening there all the time. So it's such a cool perspective to look at, like, oh, it's so far away, yet life's happening just like it is here.
Yeah, that is so wild to think about, and it puts things into perspective when you are able to see things like that in person. Because so often when we, look up other places or when we hear people talk about them, it's just all up to our imagination, or it's up to the person who's showing us that. So, like in the media or whatever, what do we think Africa's like, or what do we think the Arctic Circle, for example, is like? And probably 10 times out of 10, it's nothing like you expected.
Yeah.
At least it's a little different than what you expected.
Yeah, totally. And this guy that I met on a tour in 2019 as well, it was funny. I couldn't place where his accent was. And I was like, I just have no idea. I was thinking somewhere like Switzerland or something, and I just couldn't place it because it was just different enough that I was like, I don't know where the hell you're from. So one time he came up to my merch stand and he was talking to me, and I was like, all right, Gabe, I have to know where you're from. And he's like, he's a European looking white guy. So for me, I had this stigma of like, oh, it's somewhere in Europe. And then he goes, oh, I'm from Zimbabwe. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, yeah, I have a 250-acre farm that I have all kinds of different nuts and nut trees that I grow. And I grew up in Zimbabwe. And I was just mind blown, and it was so cool to be like, again, you just have no idea. And like you said, of like, you don't know because of what everyone is telling you of like what Africa looks like. And it looks vastly different, even from just knowing Gabe. I never would have imagined that he grew up in Zimbabwe, but he did.
Yeah. Oh, that's so crazy. Man, that is the epitome of like the surprises of life.
Yeah, and it was funny too. One of his best stories from that tour, we were doing a show in Chicago, and this guy was was a promoter there, and he was trying to do his like beefcake, like, oh, I'm Italian, don't fuck with me. And so he came up to Gabe and did that whole like, I'm Italian, and then Gabe was just like, I'm African, you don't scare me. And it was like, damn, you got him, dude. Because like I said, nobody know, you never know, you have no idea. And it
Hmm.
was so funny to see that. And like, then he was like, yeah, come down anytime and work on the farm. And I was like, I, I was like, that would probably be one of the coolest experiences in life, going down and working on a macadamia nut farm in Africa.
Yeah, oh, that would be so fun. The only experience that I've had that was close to that was I went with my partner to Hawaii for a few weeks, and we were working on an organic coffee farm.
Oh,
And they
cool.
had, they used the coffee leaves as different like drinks, and now they make like hard seltzers and alcohol and all that stuff. But at the time, it was pretty grassroots and they were just starting. And they also had like dragon fruit on the farm and white pineapple and all this delicious stuff. And so it was our job to help, work on the farm and get rid of the weeds and pull out the dragon fruit and the pineapples and stuff. And that is not easy work, but it was it was so fun. And in exchange for doing all of that stuff, we were given like accommodations and food and dinner and good company.
Yeah.
So it was an awesome experience.
Did you do that through like a workaway or was it?
Yeah, we did that through woofing, like WOOFing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My partner and I have in our thoughts of like, I just want to get out of this country for a while. We've looked
Yeah.
at that like woofing and work away and like house sitting and all over the world. I was like, I don't mind if we go house sit all around the world. That sounds fantastic.
I
Get in
know,
with a
right?
different culture and just live there for 2 months. That sounds wonderful. All
Mm-hmm.
count me in.
Yeah. It was so fun. Yes. Yes. Definitely that's something that I want to do again.
Oh, that's so cool. So how long have you been with your partner?
We've been together for 5 years.
Awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And what do
Yeah.
they do for work?
So she is a massage therapist. She actually just graduated massage therapy school, and so now she's working as a massage therapist, and she loves it. And she's also an esthetician as well.
Cool.
Um, One of the things that she would love to do in the future is integrating like massage therapy and aesthetics with like marine bio, essentially. So stuff that we find in the ocean, whether it's like different algae or different I don't even know what to call them, like elements or substances, and using them in skincare or using them as relaxation methods for massage therapy. And I was like, hell yeah. So she loves the ocean. She loves,
Wow.
everything of health and wellness, like skincare, body care. And she was like, there's no reason why I can't combine both at some point. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
That's incredible. It goes back to what I was thinking of before is like everyone's path is so different and so cool. Like what a beautiful mind to come up with that and be like massage, how incredible, but also let's bring in some marine biology into that. Like that's some
Yeah.
beautiful mind shit. That's incredible.
I know, right? I was like, hell yeah, I'm on board. We'll take
Yeah.
some like boat tours together and dig up some algae sustainably or something.
Yeah. So I how was your coming out? Was it how was that for you?
It was more troubling, like for me internally. I had such a supportive family, such a supportive friend group, and I was confident. I was mostly confident in how they would react. And so I was, gosh, how old was I? I think I was around 14, 15 when I actually came out to my friends and parents. My friends first, I came out to my best friend, and I, she was so supportive. We were like chilling in her bedroom or something, and I was like, you know what? I just gotta tell her. I just gotta tell her because it was eating me away. It was like this secret because middle school girls, what do you talk about? Boys. It's like I
Right.
don't want to talk about boys. Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was the first person that I came out to, still one of my best friends to this day. And over that period of like 1.5, 2 years, I came out to the other close friends in my friend group, which was awesome. They were also very supportive. And then I was like, okay, all my friends know, all the important people know in my life except for my family. So my parents were going on a anniversary vacation out to, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. And because it was their anniversary, I wrote them a card. And in that card, I basically came out to them. And I was like, one of the reasons why I love you so much is because I know that you'll always love me. And then I told them that I was gay. And they came back. I don't even think they didn't make a big deal out of it. They mentioned it to me. They gave me a hug. They gave me a kiss. And they were like, thank you. I know that we all love you. So
Yeah.
it was so easy and peaceful. And I'm very privileged to have that experience. And I know that so many other people do not have that experience. But as a just, call out there, if you are going through something, you haven't come out to somebody, as long as you have one or two people who really can support you and you can lean on, coming out to the other people in your life who you aren't so sure are going to be supportive is a lot easier, because you know that you at least have a few people that are standing behind you that got you back no matter what.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful of yeah, if you have one or two. You just got that one ally with you that's just standing there like, I got you. We're going to be good. We're going to get through this. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love hearing that for you. I think that's really beautiful that they didn't come back and make it a big deal. It was just like, yeah, we love you. That's that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We still love you. I love that. So before you came out, did you have a struggle with it before you did that? Before you came out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was sort of an internal struggle, but I think it was actually pretty unique because from a really young age, I knew I was different. I didn't really know how or why or what was, quote unquote good or bad, but I just noticed all of my, female friends being really attracted to talking about boys all the time, and I tried to make myself feel away. I was like, I like boys too. But I really think ever since I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, as soon
Wow.
as I could have attraction towards something,
Yeah.
even just like a small kid crush, it was pretty much never about a boy, unless it was just really good friends. And my parents and other adults would be like, "Oh, cute, you got your little boyfriend," and I was like, "Sure, he's my friend who's a dude, but I actually have a crush on this other girl over there."
Yeah.
So from a young age, I definitely knew I was different. And then because I knew I was different, I knew, or I felt like I should say, I had to hide that. And so I hid it up until middle school, until I came out to my best friend. And during that time, yeah, it was pretty challenging. I didn't really know how to navigate the waters. And during that time, I was also going through that aplastic anemia in and out of the hospital too. So
Sure.
it was a lot of really figuring out like who I am, who I want to be, and at such a young age too, when like I don't even know what those questions mean. Like, what do you mean I have to figure out who I am? Aren't I already somebody? But it was like,
Right.
okay, figuring out what that somebody is. So it was definitely challenging, and I don't think I will. I don't think during that experience I ever truly understood, besides connecting the dots now, looking back and going, oh wow, yeah, I had to work through that process of getting to know myself and being comfortable with what I felt.
Yeah, and I think just from what you said, it was trying to figure out who you are, but you're sitting there going, "But aren't I already somebody?" I think that's
Mm-hmm.
such a that says it all right there. Of like
Mm-hmm.
of what I think is just so sad is that we have to have these labels. We have to have this, or we have to explain who we are or what we believe in. It's like, aren't I somebody? Can't I just be
Mm-hmm.
seen as Nick? This is me. This is who I am. All the other stuff is just the stuff of me, but like I'm this person. I think that was a really that just struck me as really such a beautiful and kind of sad thought too of people out there that are still struggling to find that answer and or know that answer but can't be that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely something that requires a lot of reflection and awareness. And sometimes that awareness comes internally, and sometimes that awareness comes from life, like what we were talking about earlier, where it slaps you in the face a little bit, and you're like, oh, I see. You know, I'm trying to find something, but it's already here. So I have to do that internal work to really figure that out.
Yeah, and I was speaking with a couple guests the other day, and they were just, we all were talking about, like, obviously one thing that we cannot control is what we're born into, and the situations and what is already put on us just by society, by where we grew up, who we grew up with, what we grew up around, the area of the world. Those are factors that we can't control, but it's amazing to see when, like you said, you knew from very young, and then you just had to start to figure that out and look into that and grow into that person. And yeah, it's such a hard battle of, like, getting past where you come from, even, like this, just like I grew up in a small town in Ohio, so, like, what the challenges of somebody would look so different growing up there in a situation. And it's just amazing that it's like, still to this day, it's not enough just being, hey, I'm Nick.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter about anything else. I'm me. Here I am.
Yeah. Yeah, without any other labels, without any other expectations, without, anything. It's just like, cool. You were born into this world as something, as a human being with interests and behaviors, and you are that at the end of the day, and everything else is comes secondary.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those riddles that I know I'm not going to solve with
Yeah.
everybody, but it is part of that is a big part of what I want to do with this, is just to show people it's not scary because it's different. Just have a conversation. Even people in my little bubble, in the way that I think, on my side of politics. It's like, talk to the other side, because if we don't, like, if people aren't talking, then there's massive problems on all issues. It doesn't change if we're all just screaming fuck you from one side to the other. It's not going to change. I'm a very peaceful and, very patient person, but if someone's just screaming at me, I get defensive. Everybody does. Even if they're saying the same thing, like, I get defensive because of how you're coming at me. So, I'm just, yeah, I'm just out there trying to put some peace out there, and talk to people
Yes.
and be open and honest, and hoping that people can find that for themselves as well.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, you're doing a good job of it,
I,
clearly.
I
And
appreciate it.
yeah, and I think that mission is so important, and it's much needed. And day to day, in our own personal lives, and even through this, like, we're making it happen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a good segue into the two questions I ask everybody, these two. And the first one is, what would you want the world to know about you, Haylee?
About me, oh gosh. I would like them to know that they can approach me and talk to me and ask me about anything, no matter what. I would like them to know that I'm super approachable. Like, I'm like, you are down to have conversations with anybody. That's really what enriches my life at the end of the day. So that's one thing that I would like people to know.
That's beautiful. I can feel that from you, just from speaking to you for the last almost hour. I've very much
Yes.
enjoyed it. Um, so another one that I ask is, if you had the ear of everybody in the world, what would you tell them?
Oh man, another one. I would tell them that if it keeps popping up in your gut and it keeps popping up in your heart, you have to follow it. And that could mean so many different things. It could be about traveling, it could be about work, it could be about somebody you like, whatever it is. If it's in your gut and if it's in your heart and it pops up more than once, like, that's the right answer. if you're trying to make a decision, that's the right answer. So go with your gut and go with your heart.
I love that. I love that. I think that's such a beautiful sentiment of, yeah, follow your heart, follow your gut, take chances.
Mhm.
Life is short. It's very, very
Yeah.
short. So if you have something that keeps popping up and you keep wanting to do that, do it.
Yeah.
Because we can all fail and do something different, but you can't go back and not and do something that at the end of your life you can't go back to do something that you were like, well, shit, I wish I would have done that my whole life. Go for it,
Hmm.
do it. You have that
Hmm.
power.
Yes.
Everybody does.
One of the most inspiring things, not to get too off topic, but that I've ever heard was from Lisa Nichols. She's a motivational speaker, author, incredible woman. And she said, we are writing the story of our own lives. And if you're thinking about you writing each and every page every single day, and at the end of your life, if you were to flip back through that book, would you be flipping through it, being super excited, being like, oh my God, this was the moment where she's about to take that leap. I'm about to do it. And then flipping the page and saying, oh, she did it, she did it, she did it. Or being like, she didn't do it, she waited. And so really being excited about the story that you're writing for yourself and thinking about that when we are faced with those really scary decisions.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful because it's such a good like that speaks to readers, that speaks to writers, that just speaks to any story that happens in the world of like, yeah, what are you writing to the world, and what are you in just your book, like, are you excited about what you're up to? Like I I remember one of the most motivational things that I was hearing when I was starting into my sobriety. I was in my small town in Ohio where I grew up. It was easy, there wasn't much happening, so I went there just to be safe and distance myself and focus on me and my health. And I started talking to people, and the saddest part about it was the most common response that I got after chatting with these people and telling them what I had done and this and that, and then my health. So many people would sit there and say, well, it's okay to settle. It's okay. You can just settle. Just like, don't tour anymore. Don't do this. Just settle. And that's okay. That's okay. You can do that. And I was like, no, absolutely not. I can't. I can't. I literally cannot do that. I will start drinking
Mhm.
again very quickly if I do that. And it will not be good. I will not be on this earth very long. But I was just like, I'll be the one to tell me when I can't tour anymore. If I go out on this tour that I go out on and I know I can't do it, I'll stop it. But I'm not going to not give myself that chance. Because, when I was sitting there and they told me, you might not have tomorrow, I mean, shit comes at you quick when that happens. It is
Yeah.
it's real. I mean, as strong will or strong of a person or like macho or manly or whatever you think you may be, if you get those words, if they're said to you, I mean, shit opens up real quick. And you think about life, obviously. What else do you think about when you
Mhm.
might not, when those words get uttered of like, you may not be here tomorrow? That's all you can literally think about is life up until that moment. And I sat there and it was so at the end I got really okay with where I was and what I had done and what I had accomplished, what I had seen in life. And I got to the point where I was like, my book, I did it. I challenged myself. I didn't do the safe. Like obviously I got
Mhm.
myself to the deathbed from drinking, and I was like, I don't even regret that. I lived life. I had a blast. I saw the world. And at 33, when that almost was the end of me, I sat there and I feel like, I was looking at my book and I was like, that's a pretty interesting fucking book
Yeah.
that I put out there. So I think that's such a beautiful sentiment to put out of like, take those chances, be you, follow your heart, because the money and all this other shit that you're out there clawing for doesn't matter in the end. The things that matter are,
Yeah.
the beauty that you put out there and like the people that you met and the experiences and the joy that you found in life, you know? So I think, yeah, all of that in my long rant is fully onto that, yeah, man, go out and live, enjoy life.
Hell yeah, man. The best things in life are not the things that we can physically touch, see, or feel. It's the stuff that we can't touch, see, or, physically feel.
Yeah. Well, I thank you so much for being on here, and thank you for all the beauty that you're putting out in the world. I can just feel it. I feel that I have a new friend from this whole chat. Keep in touch, and when the world gets normal, I'm sure I'll be down that way, and I'll hit you up. It'll be cool to actually hang out. I love good
Yeah,
people.
100%. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and it was so much fun, Nick.
Yeah, and funny enough, I love the big red flyer in Spokane.
The big red fly. Oh, yes, yes. I was like, wait, what are you talking about? Yes,
The
that thing is so cool.
I remember going there for the first time and I was like, "Holy shit, that's a big wagon." So funny.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, somebody watching is gonna or listening or whatever is gonna be like, man, what are they talking about? You gotta look it up. You'll look it up.
Yeah, yeah. Go look up a big red wagon in Spokane, Washington. It's massive. It's monstrous.
It's yeah, it's massive.
Awesome. Well, Haley, I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I hope you also have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. See you.
See ya. Bye, Nick.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Beautifully Human podcast. To hear more beautiful stories from beautiful humans, follow us on Spotify and rate and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Wanderlust Moon Duo. Peace signs up.